Mhm. Hello and welcome to another episode of Marie from the Block. Um, I am streaming from unfamiliar surroundings, so if you are watching this instead of just listening to it, you might wonder where I am. I am not in New York. I'm actually in Austria right now, and I believe that today's guest is also in Europe. Maliha, where are you situated right now?
Hi, Marie. I'm so excited to talk to you. Yeah, I'm in England right now, so cold, gloomy in England.
Yeah, I feel you. I was there over the holidays because my family lives there. So cold and gloomy sounds about right. Yeah, my mom was like, take vitamin D, you need to inject the sun.
Mom has it right.
um,
Yeah.
so Maliha is a visual artist and she kind of discovered the NFT space um, because I think for her it's just such a good medium to have a big audience, and she is also an activist. She's really passionate about women's rights, women's education, the United Nations Development Goals, and kind of coupling that with her own art and also her own story. So just that's upfront, but I think Malia, you're probably much better at kind of giving your background. Could you maybe share with the viewers, like, you said you're in England right now. How did you end up where you are right now?
Yeah, well, firstly, Marie, thank you for having me on your show. I'm so excited. Like, we met in Miami, and just like you're like the sort of person that I can honestly talk to for hours. We like align on a lot of things. So yeah, I'm just so excited to have this conversation with you and be on your show. And yeah, so my name is Maliha Abidi. I'm an artist, an author, and an activist. I immigrated to United States when I was 14 from Pakistan, and then around like I was 20, I want to say 2021, I moved to United Kingdom. Yeah, so now I'm in England, so I've been living here for the past 5 6 years. Love it, and sometimes I don't love it. It's only the only thing I have against UK is the weather. That's it. Otherwise, I love it. I love the fact that Europe like is so small that you can travel anywhere very quickly. Flights are cheap. I love everything about it except for the weather.
Yeah, that's very easy to relate to, especially as we met in Miami at the beginning of December, like literally in like basically a beach club. So it's like you that I definitely you seemed very happy in that environment.
Yeah.
um, and you've lived in a lot of places. So Malia is only 26 years old. And already you've lived in as many places as most people do in a lifetime. When did the kind of desire come? Was it something since you were little? So talk to me about your passions. So your visual art and the political activism, did that come from a young age, those two, or did it kind of grow, or how did that come about?
Yeah, so in terms of visual art, art has been a part of my life for as long as I can remember, and the credit really goes to my father because um, like when I was little, and like we create art as kids. So when I was young, I used to take my illustrations and drawings to my father and paintings to my father, and he would he would actually give me feedback like he's some curator at a museum, or like some art critic or something like that. Like he would actually take a work of a child very seriously, and like give me feedback on it, rather than just kind of making it a big deal about it, and oh my god, my daughter created this, and just like throwing it away later, or putting it on the fridge for a while and then not actually like taking it seriously. Like he actually took it seriously, and and he just used to like give me feedback on it, so that kind of made me really, that started like my journey into art really early on. And I started to take it more seriously, and because my father was taking it seriously, and also I never saw it as a playtime thing. It was like it very early in my life it became a thing that I was just like passionate about, and I saw the potential in it. And later in life it also like just helped me cope with a lot of things. As humans, we tend to go through things, and that's just like during some times in my life, like it just really helped me. And eventually it was a very natural thing for me to meet at the intersection of social justice and art, because I was processing a lot of emotional things through art. So when I came across things that bothered me on a political level or on a social justice level, art was like my natural kind of way to cope with that, process it, talk about it. Um, and yeah, so that's pretty much it.
Lovely. Yeah, we're just getting a really nice comment here from Savannah. She's saying how great that your father supported your art early in life. It's such a blessing. It's interesting
Savannah,
because
sorry, I was just gonna say Savannah is amazing. She's a community member of Women Rights, so I just want to say hi, Savannah.
for being here with us, Savannah. I have to ask you because there is a really famous Pakistani woman about your age who also moved to the UK and also had a really supportive father. Of course, I'm talking about Malala. Um, did your paths ever cross? I know that's a lot to ask for two nations that are so big, but because you're both like really supportive of social justice movements and women's rights across the world, did you ever kind of intersect in one way or another?
Well, firstly, I'm nowhere close to how Malala is, but yeah, I absolutely love her. I love how supportive her father is, and you need that in your life, a supportive, just support system, I guess, supportive support system, if that makes sense. But the funny thing is, I've been working with Malala Fund on like different things, like um like when my first book came out, they were really supportive Malala Fund. Like I wrote an article on Malala Fund. Then when I launched my mental health organization, they were really supportive. I wrote an article about that on the website. And Malala in general has been like, wonderful person. She's somebody I like to think of as a friend. Funnily enough, we have never met. So even though
Ah,
we both live in the UK, but I think that's gonna change in 2022. And I would love to meet her, but it's honestly like we talk, and her father is really supportive of. Like this one time, I received an order from my art shop, and I didn't really think of it much. I was like, okay, like grateful for an order. And then when I was like checking the address and like printing out the slip, it said his name, and I was like, did they just like order something from my website? So like they're really supportive, they're really wonderful, and just like of course like everybody knows about their activism when it comes to girls' education and women's rights, and yeah, so grateful to be in such a company.
awesome. Yeah, that's you guys are really exemplary for young women in Pakistan and beyond. So it's just incredible that there are two of you like at the same time, and there are many more. It's just, of course, Malala. Everyone's heard of her because of the Nobel Prize and her activism during the war. And then I discovered through my love of art and crypto and blockchain. So there are bound to be more young Malihas and Malalas out there.
I don't even think like I deserve my name in the same sentence, Marie, but I do like to think that Malala has inspired a lot of women and girls around the world to be activists in their own communities.
Fantastic. Yeah. And it says it on your title there on the show, Maliha Abidi, Women Rise. Could you tell us a little bit about the second part, the Women Rise part? What does that mean? What does it involve? And seeing as this is a blockchain and crypto show, how does that tie into this?
Yeah, so Women Rise is an NFT project that me and my team started about a month ago, even though we've been working on it since like August. And so it's a project that consists of 10,000 NFTs, and it's a representation and celebration of female activists, artists, scientists, coders, and many more. But honestly, like it's a movement to advance women's rights when it comes to Web3, um, blockchain, and onboard women and girls from around the world. And that includes, not just women and girls from first world countries, where like right now, a lot of the conversations that we're having about Web3 and NFTs is very US centric, but talking about, the digital divide and including women and girls from around the world. Pakistan is a priority for me. So are like some of the other countries. So, I want to make sure that we work on the digital divide. I mean, there's so many women and girls around the world that haven't even made it into Web 2, and here we are ready to explore Web 3 already. So, I think in the long run, it's only going to benefit us if we have more diversity and inclusion in this space rather than, if you're talking about decentralized, like, I think it demands diversity.
Wonderful. Yeah. So interesting what you said about Web 2 and Web 3. Web 3, I think in December, maybe after we met in Miami, it suddenly became such a buzzword where like even people who don't really have much to do with crypto and blockchain were suddenly like everyone was talking about it. Could you maybe like just briefly say like what does Web3 mean to you? How do you define that for yourself, and what are the opportunities for creators like yourself, artists or otherwise, in Web3 versus Web2?
Yeah. So in Web3, I feel like I want to say a space that's, of course, like decentralized. So, like, there's no one authority, there's no like hierarchy, there's no one leader. Um, and, you're kind of like, but there are a lot of pioneers, and I love that. I feel like we're going to see a lot of pioneers in this space, because it is quite early. We don't even fully know what this space can become. It's ever evolving. Like a week ago, it was something completely different. Now it's completely different. That's fast this space moves. But for me, it's an opportunity for women and girls to, focus on equality and equity. Um, we cannot deny the fact that financial independence and financial independence and just wealth in general matters a lot when we talk about human rights. It can make a huge difference. Financial freedom. I mean, there's so many women around the world that if it wasn't for like if they can achieve financial independence, their situation would be completely different. I mean, just one example is women staying in, I don't know, like toxic marriages, or for the sake of their children, or because they're not earning and the husband is earning. So if they're thinking about all of these things, that, oh, if I leave, how will I take care of my kids and myself? And because, yeah, they don't have any other way of income. They can go back to their parents' house. In most cases they don't. In some cases, like, they don't even have a home to go back to. So, like these kind of things. I mean, like there was a surge in domestic violence cases during the pandemic. And one of the things that was very obvious was the financial, I mean, people went through financial troubles, but it impacted women and children the most, because they were unable to escape those situations because of their financial issues, right? So there's so many things to think about when it comes to Web3, Bitcoin, crypto, blockchain, NFTs. It's a huge opportunity for women and girls and just people from the most marginalized communities to find liberation, like to liberate themselves. And this can only happen if we educate the masses, and we spread awareness, and we make accessibility, like if we normalize accessibility, so because we can talk about Web3 all day long, we can brag about how early we are, we can make all the money in this space, but it's limited to you then, like I am taking advantage of this place, you're taking advantage of this place. But in the long run, we need to make sure then that the most marginalized are also in this community, people who don't have access to Wi-Fi or computers and stuff. Like, even think about them, because then truly can we talk about being early, being progressive, and then truly can we have a decentralized space where people are equal. And I personally think like we have a really radical tool in our hand to advance human rights through Web3 and blockchain and crypto.
Wow, that was a very good answer. I learned a lot. It is interesting what you said, because I think to us it seems like such a no-brainer, like to lift creators and empower creators, and grow the relationship between creators and audiences, and have accessibility of tokens and cryptos and all of that. But I think to people who think that that stuff is hard to understand, people new to the space, even from our Western countries, they might laugh at the idea that people in developing countries would be able or have access to crypto, or DeFi. But of course, like you were mentioning, accessibility is such a huge thing. It's not like they have accessibility to what is out there right now. It's
Yeah.
not like these women that you mentioned who might be in toxic marriages and stay, in service of their children.
Or may
It's
not
not like
have
they,
like access to education and like,
yeah,
yeah, all of these different things.
yeah. I mean, it's not like they have a bank account right now to speak of in our traditional financial world, or they don't have, I don't know, a YouTube channel or a Facebook channel where they can communicate with their friends, because they, it's like you said, they don't have Wi-Fi, they don't have maybe a means to further their own education over the internet. So I guess my question would be, and I know it's a tough one because it's I think a question that a lot of people are trying to answer. Do you think that allowing access this time around, is it easier to invite those people into that community, into the Web3 community? Is it going to be easier than inviting them into traditional finance and traditional social media and internet communities?
I think it needs to be done in steps, and it definitely needs to start with education. So, don't just think about bringing people in just like at this hour. It definitely needs to start with education, because you don't want to like overwhelm people either, right? You're not just trying to like show off your knowledge and, hey, like, look at me, like I know so much about Web3, but like you're not just trying to show off your knowledge in front of people who don't know much about it, right? Like you're trying to actually help them, right? So it needs to be done in steps, and it needs to be done through education firstly, like increasing literacy around technology, and internet and finance. So like all of these, like why wouldn't a family that is going through financial hardships or is barely making ends meet, why wouldn't they want to step into this world? But it's all about like going to them with a plan, with a story, with like maybe some case studies as well. But there are a few things like we need to overcome. Firstly, it's about education and increasing literacy when it comes to technology, finance, and internet, well, which falls into technology, but also like um, the digital divide, which is obviously Wi-Fi or accessing computers and stuff. So what we can kind of do is that we can reach out to people in Web 2 right now, and then maybe like mobilize communities. Because like let's say if I'm somebody who's like aware of Web 2 and Web 3, if I have somebody around me that has, and I have people around me who don't have a mobile phone, they have electricity, they have access to Wi-Fi, they have access to a phone, they just don't use it because they're not comfortable with it. So we need to think about it that way. It's not just about, hey, like you're going to make hundreds of thousands of dollars in this field. Like that doesn't mean anything to them. That sounds like a fairy tale to them. They don't see how. So you need to kind of answer the how for them. And for somebody like them, because there's so many mental barriers that sometimes we as humans create for ourselves as well, and there's so many barriers, systemic barriers, that already exist too. So we need to kind of approach it with a bit strategically, and we need to think about a few steps, starting with education. But as I was saying, there are so many people around me um, who even have access to a mobile phone, but I don't see them stepping into this world because nobody's educating them about it. So and we don't even think about the language barrier, right? So for example, like they're like me and you are communicating in English, but English is not the only language in the world. Like there's so many people who don't speak English, and that's fine. So how do we like overcome that as well? So there are like a set of challenges that we need to overcome, and it needs to start with education. Like one of the ways I see how we can kind of work with people who don't speak English is through working with organizations that operate in multiple languages. So for example, if I am working with an organization where I can communicate with them in English or another language that I speak, which is Urdu from Pakistan, I can communicate to them, pass on my knowledge of Web3, train them in Web3, or at least like train them in things that I know about. and then they can pass it on to women and girls that they work with or people that they work with. And that is one of the models that Women Rise is working on. So we're working, like, we're currently in touch with Malala Fund, the Girl Effect, the PAC Project, Sola Afghanistan School, and we're going to be doing workshops with them to educate the people about Web3, the staff and the students. And this is how we're planning on onboarding more than 100,000 girls by the end of 2022. So, it needs to start with education. It needs to, and then slowly you can talk about, like, oh, hey, maybe like we should set up, like, like, for example, like all the NFT projects that are out there, right? What if we set up like a small fund where we're buying laptops and Wi-Fi access for like different communities around the world? So it needs to be like done step by step. Like there's like an entire generation of children that don't even have access to regular education, so they don't have to come into this space and release NFTs and create DeFi or DAOs and stuff. What we can create in this space is simply like education, normal education for people who never even had it. We don't have to just educate them about Web3, and within that education, then we can talk about Web3, then we can talk about innovation. But yeah, so this is what I mean by, like, onboarding people in this space. So it's not just about onboarding people to make NFTs or make them creators or make them into entrepreneurs, but give them access to things like education and human rights in general. Like girls in Afghanistan haven't had their human right to education for more than 100 days now. So this is what I'm talking about. Like, we don't have to, like, if we are able to get them out of that situation, we don't have to just like educate them about NFTs and Web3. It's like, how do we make education accessible to them so that they never have to stop their education?
Definitely. Wow, it's like you kind of within your answer you anticipated my next question, which was going to
Oh,
be,
sorry.
you know, no, it's a good thing. It's like you're like a journalist's dream. But I was going to ask, how, because you kept saying like we have to think of the how, and then I was going to ask how Women Rise approaches these problems of access and education, and then you pretty much started answering how Women Rise does that. So that was really, really, really nice. Just for people who are listening to this, because it is kind of a podcast, even though it's a video podcast. Can you maybe just with your words describe the type of art that Women Rise is? Also to people who are perhaps crypto curious but don't know about PFP art or generative art or avatars or OpenSea or how 10,000 is kind of like a magical number. Can you kind of describe the collection and like the visual legacy and your, because that's your work, right? That's your art. Just use your words to kind of describe what everything looks like and how it came about.
I mean, honestly, like I think you're so right. Like 10,000 is just such a big and magical number. Honestly, like when I first like started to think about this project and I saw other people like in this space when I was studying this space, I was like, okay, like some people are doing 7,000, some people are doing 10,000. It's definitely in thousands. And I was like, I was just talking to my husband, who's the project director on the project, and also our developer, who's my cousin. So it was a very family run team. And I was just talking to them, and I was like, damn. So like we would be able to release this project in the next 2 years, because it's going to take me like a while to draw all 10,000. That's how naive I was. So like, and now I know that it's generative. Like I created a set of assets. I created 450 assets, and then our developer created a generator, and then the assets were put into the generator, and that's how the 10,000 came about. But I'm a traditional artist as well, and so I've created like so many one-on-one artists, which is like the traditional art, right? And in the collection we have hidden like 10 one-of-ones as well, so they're completely unique. There are no assets that match any other ones, and they're inspired by real life women. So Malala, Aretha Franklin, Frida Kahlo, that I have a picture of right there, and like so many others. So that's basically like what the art is. And in terms of my style, like I'm a traditional artist that moved into that kind of expanded into digital art space about a year ago or year and a half ago. So I'm a portrait artist, and our artwork is very much like portraits of women from around the world, and they're representing scientists and activists and artists. And yeah, so through the artwork, that's what we're trying to celebrate and represent.
Wonderful. And you mentioned the 450 different assets. Just for maybe someone who hasn't seen the collection before, by the way, you definitely should. You can just Google Women Rise and you'll see it. But what are these assets? What do they kind of look like, and how did you think of the different assets?
Yeah, so assets are somewhere like anywhere from like different eyes to different lips to different hairstyles to different clothing, like pieces of clothing, to different backgrounds. So the backgrounds are really important and key because they really represent like different professions. And so we have like an art studio background and also like a chemistry background and like a camera background, and like just some abstract backgrounds as well. Like we have astronauts in there. There's like alien in some of the backgrounds, so just like things like that. But then we also have like this range of backgrounds where we are focused on sustainable development goals, and we have connected it to sustainable development goals. And so it's a protest of women in the background, and they're color coded to match the SDG 17 goals. So if anybody has seen the SDG 17 goal, you can just Google it, Sustainable Development Goals by the UN, and there's 17 of them. And they're different, just different colors. So for example, goal number 4 is about education. Goal number five is about gender equality. So, the color that's like goal number 5, we have connected it to one of the backgrounds that's like a protest happening, and that's like a red background. And the idea is that if you mint an NFT that's like with that background, your NFT is an artist. So the Women Rise NFT that you have, an activist, sorry, she's an activist and she's rising for gender equality, and so on. So there are like others as well. So there's like a green one that's connected to goal number 13, which is climate change, and so she's rising to uh, she's rising to fight for climate change. So these are the kind of things that we've tried to like really do with the collection, and when it comes to art.
Wonderful, wonderful. We did get a good question from Savannah. I hope she's still with us, but I'll blend it in. Yeah, so Savannah is asking, it would be beneficial if you could give advice based from your experience on the best approach for other artists trying to bring humanitarian issues into Web3 via their artwork.
Yeah.
Basically, how did you do it?
I mean, it's an extension of the work that I've been doing for the past 9 years. But honestly, like, I would like people to, and artists, to kind of like search within themselves what are the issues that are very important to them. Don't just kind of like follow a trend or follow the news and follow kind of like, oh, like I saw this person talking about this, and I'm sure every person cares about something. Like either you care about climate change, which we all should be caring about, honestly, or either you care about gender equality, again something we all should be caring about, or like mental health, or equal education, or maybe you are against the gender pay gap, or like all of like so many different things. I think the best cause is something that you personally connect with. And then I have seen so many incredible projects talking about different causes that are close to their heart, anywhere from like raising awareness for breast cancer to raising awareness about violence against women, to just having fun with NFTs as well, or just like trying to onboard people. So the best cause that you can kind of bring into the space through your art is the cause that you care about. And once you find that cause and you research about it, it will come very naturally to you.
Yeah. Now there's this kind of word. I'm not usually a fan of buzzwords because they always come loaded, but people are obsessed in NFTs with the word utility of late. So kind of like utility in the sense of what can I do with it? Or, like with the
Yeah.
Bored Ape Yacht Club, it's like, you get access to parties or advertising, whatever. With some, it's I mean it's just like utility can be such a broad thing, right? Some are now tied to DAOs. Um, what are the kind of, because you mentioned the UN development goals that Women Rise is working towards those, and some of the charities that you are already working with, including the fund by Malala. What are kind of just for Women Rise? What are the goals for this year for 2022?
Yeah, we have like loads of things that we're working on. One of the things is working with different organizations to onboard the staff and the students that they're working with. And then we're also focused on like launching our merch stores. So if you use your NFTs as one of the on one of the merchandise, then you will get a cut of like that merch that's being sold. So let's say Marie, you own an NFT by Women Rise, and we're using that NFT on a shirt, you get a cut of that shirt, and there's also like, at a certain percentage, we're giving away my second book, which is Rise, which consists of 100 stories of women of color from around the world. We're also working on two very exciting clubs, and one is Rising Women Club and the other is Activist Club. So in the Rising Women Club, we will be supporting women artists, women in STEM, and just creators in general and innovators. And we're also in the Activist Club. We are mobilizing activists so that they can mobilize their communities. So we're going to be working with people who want to create change in their communities, but they don't know how to set up their organization. They don't know what is the first step about, political campaigning. So we're going to be helping them, just work how like navigate the system and also understand how things are done and how to set up your own organization. So we will be literally mentoring the next generation of activists, or the next class of activists, because it's not necessarily limited to any age or anything. It's literally like people of every age, but it's like they're the upcoming activists. So next class of activists, and we are going to be mobilizing them so that they can create change in their own communities. And
Nice.
that's just roadmap 1.0. Our ultimate goal is to create the first school in the metaverse for the 258 million children who are out of school. And we were supposed to wait until we get to roadmap 2.0, but we are impatient people, so we have already started work on that.
I love that. I love that. Now, there is a woman who's quite famous. She is famous through a movie which is called Legally Blonde, and she's been in a few other things. And she, like you, was a champion of women in many disciplines, especially the creative arts. I'm speaking, of course, of Reese Witherspoon, who is really championing a lot of women authors and screenwriters through Hello Sunshine. And she followed you on Twitter. How can we count her as a women rights supporter? What's the story there? I did have to ask this because it was just I'm such a fan, so that
Well,
was really cool.
yeah, I'm a fan of Reese as well. I don't know how many times I watched Legally Blonde a year. Like honestly, it's like one of the best movies ever. But um, in terms of like her supporting women rights, I think she can only answer that. So Marie, you need to bring her on the show and ask her that. But yeah, she did follow us the other day, and it was just so exciting. So yeah, feeling like that was a great feeling. I mean, I met somebody like a representative of our company, Hello Sunshine, in Miami. Cassie, she's so amazing, and I'm so grateful. But honestly, like when it comes to Reese, like I've never spoken to her, so I actually have no idea like if she's somebody who supports women rights or not. But yeah, she did follow us. So
Yeah, at the very least, she likes your art, which is pretty great for
hope
an
so.
artist to consider. So yeah. Um, now you clearly have an eye for art. You did art before NFTs, and you probably will if there is ever an after. Do you collect any NFTs yourself, and what kind of advice do you have for people who are perhaps considering buying their first NFT but don't really know where to start? What do you look for when you're looking for art to buy yourself in the digital space?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly look for a piece of art that I can flip for millions of dollars. Like one should. I'm totally kidding. So I do collect like NFTs, and it's from the fund that we have set up under Women Rise. Again, we are impatient. We haven't reached that percentage where we're supposed to launch Women Rising Club and Rising Women Club, and we're already collecting artwork. So and I'm usually the one who's like, buying. So when I go shopping, it's usually because I love the artist and I love the art. There's no like other reason. Um, and so far, I have collected from um, only women artists, and that's truly just because I'm surrounded by female artists and I just love their work. And also, just it's incredible, honestly. Like even from like a business point of view, right? Like this is the best thing you can do for yourself as well. Like collecting from artists in this space so early on, I think that's one of the best things you can do.
I would agree. I mean, if people see the little black and white sketch in the corner, that was the first art NFT I had from the Sad Girls Bar collection, and it was after I heard the artist in a Twitter space, and she's Russian and she's young, and there was this guy like translating for her, and they had such good ideas and a roadmap, and I kind of like the moodiness of it, and it's like you said, like you really want to. I keep saying this to people, like even if it goes to zero, whatever that means, like you have the chance to own something. It's like buying a beautiful print. Like if you're considering buying a print for your room on Etsy or something, you're not like, how am I going to flip this, or how much is this worth? You're buying it for the aesthetics. So like if you do that in
Yeah,
the NFT space, like you can't lose, because
exactly.
first of all, chances are other people are going to find it aesthetically nice.
Yeah.
uh, Chances are you're going to support a young artist who maybe will be able to become like a full-time artist through NFTs, which is really cool. And then, if you do want to make money, like obviously there's nothing wrong with that. Money is nice. Like if you support an artist early on, maybe buy a couple of her pieces, then there will be down the road the opportunity to flip that for money.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. Because the art grows in value with the artist, right? Like the artist in itself is a brand.
Right. Totally. Totally. I agree. And then just generally, what do you think of the whole avatar trend? Because I'm having people like who are new to NFTs ask me this. They're like, "Oh, why does my boss use like a monkey on Gmail?" And I'm like,
It's not just your boss, it's Eminem as well, and it's Snoop Dogg as well, and it's Jimmy Fallon as well, and there's so many other influencers out there that are doing that as well. So yeah, I mean the avatar trend, I think it's like a fun thing. Like it's maybe the first step into the metaverse because we're kind of like dressing up as these characters, right, to represent the projects that we have bought into. But honestly, like I don't mind it. I actually like it a lot. It's kind of like, I mean, for companies like Adidas and for companies like, or for big names like, like I said, Jimmy Fallon or Reese Witherspoon to like, sport a NFT. Like, if you just take a moment to think about it, like we're in a great business, like we already have in such an early time, like we already have like really big names who can bring a lot of attention to emerging artists in this space and creators and businesses. Like I think it's a really fun trend.
yeah, and I think it has a lot to do with community. It's like it reminds me of how people, when they support a sports franchise, they might always sit on the sofa alone and watch the Knicks. But then when they're outside, they'll wear a Knicks cap, no matter where they are in the world, or a Knicks jersey, or a Real Madrid jersey, or it's just like a way to show to the world, hey, like this is what I care about. And then you might walk past someone else who has that.
Actually, do you know
Uh,
what that just reminded me of? That's so true. That actually reminded me of, like, if you remember like the early days of like creating a profile on Facebook or somewhere, people rarely used to put their own pictures. They just used to put like I remember putting a picture of like Hannah Montana just because I loved her. And I was a teenager at the time and I was like, yeah, Miley Cyrus for the win. And I don't think I put on my own picture until like I was 17 or 18, and I was using my real name and everything, but it was just kind of like no real pictures. So, just like to represent myself on the internet, I was using a picture of a celebrity that I looked up to. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like
Yeah,
it's something that I connected to. So maybe I really just out of it. I don't know. It could be something like that, like we're just like in this new frontier of like internet and technology that we're kind of representing ourselves through these characters or these projects that we feel like we're a part of the community.
definitely. Yeah, I completely agree. And I think I had pictures of my dog, but it's like, and then yeah, I remember. It's funny you say that because my cover photo, you know how Facebook used to have like a white,
Yeah,
well, I think you still do, but it was like my two favorite football, like soccer players. Because
yeah,
obviously that's not me, but I feel like sometimes that says more about who you are than like your face, because it's not like we
mhm,
like choose our face. Like it's
yeah,
more like an expression of interests. Yeah.
yeah. And it's also kind of like, if you're part of like a really valuable project, then you're kind of like, I mean, I personally feel so honored when I see people write in their bios, women rise number whatever, or women, part of women rights community, and I'm like, you think of us enough to write about us in your bio, like you feel so included in the community, and that's beautiful to me. So yeah, people usually like in their online appearance, like they make sure to write about things or post about things that are kind of like, that represent them. So yeah.
That's true. Yeah, that's very true. So, if someone is kind of like, "Oh, how do I do this? Like, I want to see the art. I want to check it out. Maybe I want this to be my first NFT." Like step by step, like if people are like opening a tab, what do they have to do to like find your art and maybe mint? Mint is obviously a crypto term, but mint is kind of like buy at the beginning, um, to get themselves a Women Rise NFT.
Yeah, so would you like me to like literally go step by step?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, please.
awesome. All right, so you basically open up Google Chrome, and if you don't already have a MetaMask, you need to connect your MetaMask. Put 0.07 ETH in it because that's our floor, that's our mint price. And some extra for gas because gas is unpredictable, but sometimes gas is really good. Like I think the lowest I have paid for gas is like 15. Gas is basically like a transaction fee that you pay. It's like a shipping cost. Sometimes it's too crazy, so please don't buy things when you're buy NFTs when gas is too crazy. But yeah, you basically like go to Google Chrome, connect your MetaMask, go to Women Rise. Sorry, open your Google Chrome, go to womenrise.art, connect your MetaMask to our website, and click Mint. And then you will be able to mint up to 10 NFTs per wallet. So you can mint anywhere from like one NFT to 10 NFTs. And you're done. And then you can, access it on Rarible. We just launched our own rarity tool. So instead of dropping two
Mm,
ETH on like some website to list our project, our developer and project director created a rarity tool for our own project, which I'm so proud of. And now we can use those ETH that we would have like used to list our project into investing into like the community. So
yeah.
you can check the rarity of your, because some NFTs are more rare in our collection than the other ones. So for example, like the one of ones that I mentioned earlier are the most rare ones. And then yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think that's pretty easy, hopefully. I did Mint too myself. And I
Thank you.
think the cool thing about Mint is it's like a surprise. It's like unwrapping a gift because you're not choosing them. It's like a, if you buy a pack of baseball cards, you'll get used to this. I always use sports examples for everything because I'm such a
Yeah.
sports nerd. But like if you're collecting like soccer cards for the World Cup, like Panini album cards or baseball tops cards or NBA Top Shots, to go like crypto native, then you can rip a pack and it's like silver and shiny and it's exciting and you don't know what's inside and it could be like Steph Curry or LeBron James or someone not as well known. And with the art, it could be like maybe it's someone that looks like you or it's
Yeah.
an astronaut, and that's really cool. Or it's someone like all these traits that you mentioned. I mean, when I was looking around at them on OpenSea and Rarible, you know, some of them have like a really cool lipstick color, or they have a really cool background, and they all have like really redeeming features.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely fun. I'm a big fan of generative art. I think if it's by artists, I have to say that it's going to sound kind of snobby, but I think it's such a good opportunity for young artists to make a name for themselves. But what I'm not a huge fan of is people who've never, who are not really creatives or have never done art and just enter the space with something that's like without any heart and love and just looks terrible in my obviously subjective opinion, and just to like flip, you know, just to catch people at mint, promise them the world, like this is going to be the new XYZ. um I do think it's like what Malia said, you have to do your research and you have to decide, like, do I want to support this artist?
Yeah.
Do I want to own this? Because at the end of the day, that's the most important, and everything else is kind of like a bonus.
Yeah, I mean, what you kind of shared is basically like the definition of a rug pull, you know, and I hope
Yeah.
nobody falls for it, but unfortunately, you have, and this is why you need to do your due diligence and, you know, like look into the team. Like our team is completely doxed. You know, like everybody knows who we are, everybody knows the project director, the developer, they know me. So, you know, like I think like you need to be very, very careful. You basically like are trusting the team, right? Like you're trusting whether they're going to come through or not. And yeah, you start with the team, honestly.
Yeah, awesome. Malia, I've asked everything I wanted to ask. I do always ask one thing at the end. I always like ask a fun question.
Yeah.
And I think because you've lived in so many places growing up, it's going to sound very like general, but I think it could be a fun question for you. What is your favorite meal in the world? What's like your favorite thing to eat?
Biryani. Sorry, I
Yeah.
answered before you finished the question. Because I literally had biryani even before like our conversation. Like I have had world cuisine. Okay, I love a lot of food around the world. I love it. It's great. I always come back home for biryani. I'm about to go to Dubai on a work trip. And Marie, I have my priority. My priorities are messed up. Okay, so when I went to Miami, I had so much happening. I was meeting so many wonderful people. I was doing, you know, so much for the project. My team was doing so much for the project. We were just having so much fun, just like representing the project. Somebody asked me, "What are you most excited about?" I was like, "The sun." So my priorities are messed up. And again, like when it comes to, for example, I'm going to Dubai, we're going to the Dubai Expo, we're meeting so many people for, again, women rights, for business related reasons. That's where we're going. I'm most excited about biryani because again, there's halal food everywhere in Dubai. And if 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 any Muslim people are watching this, they understand my struggles. Or if any Jewish people are watching, they understand too because they eat kosher. So like any person who has dietary restrictions, even like vegans, they would understand my struggle. Like it's not easy to find halal food. So I mean, in London it is, but honestly, this is like we need to save this for another podcast. Like we need to start a food podcast and talk about this.
Oh my God, I'm so glad I asked. That was so
Yeah.
funny. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining on a Sunday evening. This was a blast. I'm really happy we could make it.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
so grateful, Marie. Thank you so much for having me. And you know, you're just doing so many incredible things. You're championing women in this space. You're writing for Forbes, and you have your own Marie from the Block, you know, podcast. You're just a total superstar. Yeah.
oh, thank you. That means a lot. Where can people find you if people want to get some more Maliha in their life? Can they find where can they find you online?
Yeah, they can find me on Twitter. They can find me on Instagram, on TikTok. I love TikTok. All of my usernames are Maliha Z Art. Or you can search by Maliha Abidi. Yeah, that's where they can find me.
Awesome. Easy enough. Easy enough.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm gonna end on this lovely note from Savannah. She says, "Bravo to you
Yeah,
both."
that is amazing.
Um, thank you everyone for watching. And yeah, I hope to see you in real life sometime, pandemic pending. But
Yeah.
yeah, this was a lot of fun. Have
Yeah.
a have a wonderful evening.
Yeah, thank you so much, Maria. I know we'll meet again this year for sure at one of the NFT craziness conferences for sure. But yeah, thank you so much for your time today. And thank you everyone for watching and listening. And I'm really grateful for this opportunity. And yeah, it was so much fun talking to you.
Awesome. All right. Good
Thank
night.
you. Bye.